I'm going to take you through something that a lot of people don't cover when they talk about generations. What does it mean to be part of a generation? And how do we understand generations? These are some of the influencers. My model is really simple. It's a three-leg stool: cohort, age, and period. Those three elements interact together to help us understand what a generation is and the implications not only for the present but the future. So let me walk you through it. Generations matter, because a lot of people say, what? Who cares? Generations, that's totally amorphous. People are pretty much people. Take something as like an inanimate object like I-70, which was being built when I was a child under the Eisenhower administration. For the GI generation, or the greatest generation, that could have been me. I would not have worn that beanie, I can guarantee you that. But striped shirt, Bermuda shorts, maybe. That was my parents and my sister and me, not literally, but a photo similar to that. Going across Kansas to visit my grandparents, it took a grueling 8 hours. Remember what it was like when you were a kid and it was to travel across the big long expanse of nothing? Horrible. Well, for the GI generation, our interstate system was about connecting, bringing people together in the country. But when the silent generation came around, gentlemen, recognize this gentleman? How about Jack Kerouac? On the road. Silence started looking at our interstate system and our road system as a way to conduct an identity search. The real road trip began with On the Road. But the boomers, when they started hitting their young years, also looked at the interstate system as a way of rebelling. It's absolutely a true but little known fact that Art Garfunkel, at the top of the fame and success of Simon and Garfunkel, often would hitchhike to their gig, which made Paul crazy, thinking that his partner was hitchhiking. But he did it to make a social statement. So let's talk about really what is a generation. The PhD way of saying it is it's a common location in the historical dimension of the social process. I'll let you think about that for a second. A lot of people get born at a certain time of history and therefore share the same history and move through their life stages, experiencing that history together. But that by itself is not enough to be a generation. There are what Mannheim called generational drivers. First is that we learn a lot of our core values and our generational ways of looking, dominant ways of thinking from our parents and older generations. I would predict that most of us embrace the values set forth in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Those have been handed down to us through books, teachers, parents, movies, DVDs, and so forth. They become part of our value set. But Mannheim made the point that we appropriate those memories. If I say George Washington cherry tree, image come to mind? Yes. Everybody has an image in their mind. That's an appropriated memory in your brain. But when a generation gets to the age of about 12 or 13 and up to about the age of 25, biology meets sociology. And suddenly the generation has the brain capacity to start experiencing life from a fresh perspective, whatever's going on around them. And Mannheim referred to that as fresh contact. And that's why generations can experience the same major themes and issues in our lives, wars, media events, deaths, and somewhat see them differently. But here's the important point. When you have an experience like 9/11 or the Vietnam War or a major event in our lives, if you're in that critical period developmentally, your peers start mediating your own experiences and change the content of your own experience. So suddenly, we start having a dominant way of thinking, a generational consciousness. That does not mean that everybody thinks exactly alike, not by far not. In fact, there are generational units. There might be a generational conservative unit. There might be a liberal unit, but they still have. What's the difference between John Kerry and Rush Limbaugh? A lot, right? Except that they're anti-authoritarian in makeup. And guess what? That's a keystone boomer trait. They're both boomers. So dominant ways of thinking become part of our value set, and we carry those through our lives. That's why it's valuable to understand generations. And in the spirit of the theme of this conference, when you hit those critical years, and there's a lot of turmoil going on in the broader society, then something else happens. So basically, the generation becomes self-identifying. I just found this photo, but this could have been a photo I took. You know, the self-conscious intellectual, the budding hippie chick, the country Joe and the fish kind of guy, the everybody loves beer kind of guy. That could have been a photo from my youth.